All right. Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. We are good to go here. I am doing things a little bit different on this live stream. I will be giving you a deep dive into my budget and my budget categories. So I'm excited doing things a little different, but that's awesome. So let's dive in. Let me share my screen and get this party started. You don't want to see that. Okay. All right, so let's dive in. I am walking you guys through my budget categories. So I'm just going to go through the slides. So if you have questions along the way, just jot them in the comments and then I'll go through them and we can go from there. So a few things before we get into my actual numbers and things like that. I am paid 2 times a month, not bi-weekly, so the 15th and last day of the month. But when I create my budget, I do it from a whole month's perspective. So I have 2 incomes technically coming in for the month. I factor in additional income when it's received. So unless I know it's coming ahead of time, I won't include it when I create my budget at the start of the month. But whenever it is received, I have a plan for it and I adjust my budget accordingly. Another thing to point out, my budget does not include any business income. I have a separate budget for my business and most of the time I reinvest back into it, so I'm not mixing it with my own personal income. And then my budget factors in fixed and variable expenses. Yours should too. You guys already know this, but you've got to make sure you have the things that maybe don't have a set amount in due date every month, like groceries, gas, meals out, fun spending. You got to include that just based off your income. So that's just a quick high-level overview of my budget before we really get into the details. So let's start with my budget categories. So this is usually pretty standard month over month until my life situation changes. I don't foresee these changing, but my budget categories are savings, housing, personal bills, groceries, auto/gas, meals out, charity donations, tithe, fun spending, and miscellaneous. And then I'll kind of get into the details of each of those categories as we go through this overview. So let's start with my first category, and this is literally like in line with how my budget looks. So savings is first. I am at a point where thankfully I'm saving about 37% of my monthly income, and that does not include retirement. So my monthly take-home income, I'm saving about 37%. This 37% amount is split between 5 accounts, an emergency fund, which I think I had shared with you in a few sessions or a few money pulse checks ago, that I'm working towards flat 20,000, and I should be there by the end of the year. So once I'm there, the money that I'm allocating to that savings will go somewhere else. But again, the 5 accounts are emergency fund, a new car fund, 2 betterment investment accounts, and a short-term reserves and annual savings account. So, or excuse me, annual expenses. So I have short-term reserves, that's just close by, so I don't have to take money out of my true emergency fund that's at a high-yield savings account. And then I also save for the annual expenses. So any expense that I pay once a year, twice a year, it'll come out of that account, so I save for it accordingly. So that's my savings. Next, and the second biggest category in my budget, housing. So it's about 33% of my income, and that's between mortgage, HOA, utilities. So what I do for this specific category, my boyfriend and I have a separate bank that we use for our joint expenses, which are these. So I split the amount, like my half of these expenses, and from a month's perspective, and then transfer that split amount twice a month. So the money goes in there, I don't even have to think about it, it's automatically transferred, and then bills come out of that account. So that's how my housing category is set up. Next, personal bills. This is 16% of my income and includes subscriptions, cable, cell phone, auto insurance, but I pay auto insurance twice a year, so it comes out of that annual expenses account, but whenever it does come out, I factor it into this category. So it doesn't mess up just my normal auto gas numbers. And then personal bills all come out of my own personal checking account. Next, groceries, $200 a month for my half of the groceries, and similar to the housing expenses, I have half of that transferred twice a month, and my boyfriend does the same. Auto and gas, $50 a month. I work from home, so there's not a lot of driving on my part. I did mention in the Facebook group that fall season means Dallas Cowboys game, so I'm driving from Austin to Dallas a lot, so I do foresee a spike in this category for the next few months, but that's okay. It'll even out from prior months where I haven't done anything. Okay, meals out and fun spending. So these are two separate categories in my budget, but I kind of lumped them together because I give them the same amount. So usually it's $100 to $150 a month for meals out, just depending on what I know I have planned, if friends are in town or whatever the case may be. And then I factor in $100 a month for fun spending. Now I have a totally different account for these categories. So $200 a month goes into this account. I have a debit card for it. I spend what's in that account. If I'm done with what's in the account early, I'm not spending anything, or I result in tapping into savings, which I don't like to do. So I like keeping my fun discretionary spending separate from like personal bills, things like that. So that's why I have a separate account for these two particular categories. And getting into the final two categories of my budget, charity donations, tithe, 5% usually, that's my standard. I donate more as I see fit, or if things happen in the world and it just hurts my soul, so I want to help out where I can. Lately, it's definitely been more than 5% with everything that's kind of going on in our world. But that's usually a standard 5%. And then miscellaneous, I generally factor $100 a month. This includes any one-off or unexpected expenses or any pet expenses. I usually can plan for my pet stuff early, but sometimes it just pops up on me. I have $100 a month allocated for any type of those one-off unexpected expenses. And that's it. That is a deep dive into my budget. Kind of basic, but it has everything I need. If I need to plan for a trip or save for something, I just adjust those savings accounts. I adjust what goes in them so that I can meet whatever short-term goal I have and need to save for. Nothing ever just comes out of my account without me planning for it. As you can see, my income is pretty much budgeted out to the T. I do the zero-based budgeting method, so nothing can come up and throw my budget for a loop. If it does, comes out of that short-term reserves account, and then I just work to replace it. So it's almost like a cycle at this point. So if you have any questions about my budget, my categories, how I do anything, definitely let me know. Let me stop sharing and see if there's anything happening in the comments. Okay, it doesn't look like it. So hopefully you guys found this informative. Again, if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out, and I will talk to you all later. Have a great weekend. Bye, everyone.